On the topic of last week's subject about the scale and the half mitzvahs and half averis, so we'll continue a little bit on that. Made some copies over here. Maybe that one got a little bit wet from the snow. So if we think about the dates that we're holding now, so tonight is going to be Chaf Gimel Teves. We just had Chaf Teves, which was the yahrzeit of the Rambam. I think that was Monday. And then Chaf Dalet Teves, this Friday, is the yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. So we're in between these 2 days, and I found something from both the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe, which is related to our topic. And you think about it, it's very interesting that their yahrzeit are so close to each other, and they had actually a lot in common, the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe. Wow. So the Rambam wrote many books. The famous ones are the Yad HaChazaka, the Mishnah Torah, and the Moreh Nevuchim, the Guide for the Perplexed. So,
what's it called in Hebrew? Moreh Nevuchim?
Yeah. So the difference between those books is the Mishnah Torah is a book of halacha, and then you have Moreh Nevuchim, which is a little bit more philosophical or mystical. That's kind of the difference between those two books. And the Alter Rebbe also wrote a Shulchan Aruch, which is halacha, and then there's the Tanya, which is Chassidus, Kabbalah. So you have both of those ideas.
Who wrote the Aruch HaShulchan?
The Aruch HaShulchan.
Alter Rebbe?
No, he wrote it's Shulchan Aruch, but Aruch HaShulchan slips me right now. I could check who's the author of the Aruch HaShulchan. Let's see, Aruch HaShulchan.
Rambam, was he Maimonides too?
Yep.
Yeah. And the Rambam wrote the Shulchan Aruch?
So the Rambam
Or
wrote.
he wrote a different Shulchan Aruch?
The Rambam is kind of one of the first Shulchan Aruchs. It's not called Shulchan Aruch, but he summarized the halachos. So the Aruch HaShulchan was written by Rabbi Yechiel Epstein. That's the one who wrote the Aruch HaShulchan.
And when was this?
I have to check.
1961.
That was a guess.
Name like Epstein, I'm wondering.
Not too far, but it says here 1829 until 1908. I guess that's when he lived
Probably.
between those years.
So 1860s, 1900s.
Mm-hmm. So another thing, what I found that they have in common is the Rambam wrote everything in a very clear fashion. He said that's why he wrote his book. He says when you read the Gemara, it could be very complicated and hard to understand, the back and forth, the questions. The Rambam wanted to write something which you could read smoothly. It should flow. It should be very clear. So that's one of the things. You read the Rambam, it's pretty clear what the Rambam is trying to say. The message, it's not written cryptic. It's written very, very straightforward. Very straightforward. So let's see what the Rambam discusses over here. Oh, I hear someone. Maybe Avishai is here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Avishai. Avishai, shalom, shalom. L'chaim, l'chaim. Right. Welcome. So we were talking about the Rambam because his yahrzeit was just this Monday. So we're going to discuss the Rambam that's related to our Gemara. So we'll read it in Hebrew and then in English. Kol echad ve'echad mibnei ha'adam yesh lo zechuyos v'avainos. Misha zechuyosov yiseres al avainosov tzadik. Misha avainosov yiseres al zechuyosov Rasha. Mechza beinani. L'chein ha'medina, im hayu zechuyos kol yeshva merubos al avainusein harizot tzedakas, v'im hayu avainusein meruben harizot risha, v'chein kol olam kulei. So to translate, each and every person has merits and sins. A person whose merits exceeds his sin is termed righteous. A person whose sins exceed his merits is termed wicked. If his sins and merits are equal, he is termed a Beinoni. So this is what we discussed. So that's about a person, individual. The same applies to an entire country. If the merits of all its inhabitants exceed their sins, it is termed righteous. The whole country is a righteous. If their sins are greater, it is termed wicked. The same applies to the entire world. So you could Hashem judges the whole world also if it's mostly wicked or righteous. This is in Hilchos Tshuva, the laws of Tshuva from the Rambam. Then he continues on in the next halacha, Beis, Adam sha'avenaisav meruben al zchuyosav, miyad hu meis berishay, shnamar al roiv avainech. V'chein medina sha'avenaisav meruben, miyad hi oiveda, shnamar zaka sdaim v'amayra kiraba. V'chein kol ha'olam kulei, im haya v'nisei meruben mischuyosein, miyad hi nishchasin, shnamar vayar Hashem kiraba ras Adam, v'shikol zeh, אינו לפי מניין הזכויס והוויינס, אלא לפי גודלם. יש זכוס שהיא כנגד כמה הוויינס, שנאמר ין נמצא בדבר טוב, ויש אווין שכנגד כמה זכויס, שנאמר וחייתי אחד יאבד טובה הרבה. ואין שייקלן אלא בדייתוי של כל דייס, והוא הידע איך ערכן הזכויס כנגד הוויינס. In the translation, if a person's sins exceeds his merits, he will immediately die because of his wickedness. As says in Yirmiyah, I have smitten you for the multitude of your transgressions. So that's the individual. Similarly, a country whose sins are great will immediately be obliterated, as implied by the outcry of Sodom and Amorah is great. We know what happened to the city of Sodom and Amorah. In regard to the entire world as well, where its inhabitants' sins to be greater than their merits, they would immediately be destroyed. As related, Hashem saw the evil of man was great, and God said, I will destroy man, and that's the whole story of the flood. Noach. So now, how do we know what is considered if you have more averis or more mitzvahs? This reckoning is not calculated only on the basis of the number of merits and sins, but also takes into account their magnitude. There are some merits which outweigh many sins, as implied, because in him there was found a good quality. In contrast, a sin may outweigh many merits. As it states, one sin may obscure much good. Who's the Chayte Echad?
Because in him there was found good quality.
David, no?
David,
It's possible. It's in Malachim, one of the kings.
The examples that they gave for immediate destruction, none of them were immediate destruction.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Say more.
Hashem is patient to see if people will change their ways.
You're saying by Noach, till Noach built the Teva and everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good question. What does it mean, miyad heinish chasen, that it's immediately?
Not only that, but God has vowed never to destroy the world.
Again.
So by again, but saying that
I mean, he didn't. Right. He saved the righteous.
And then was it Sodom and Gomorrah that Abraham was like, what if I find
a few
just
tzaddikim,
a few tzaddikim?
would you spare it?
Right. Was that Sodom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's the Hebrew word for immediate.
miyad heinish chasen. I don't know.
That can also mean ultimately, or,
Miyad is usually immediately.
Yeah, it is usually immediately.
It might be an interpretation. It might, but miyad can mean Hashem decides that it should be destroyed right away. It's funny if you think about the word immediately. You kind of have the word miyad in there.
Oh, very good.
Immediately. On the next page, the weighing of sins and merits is carried out according to the wisdom of the knowing God. He knows how to measure merits against sins. So you don't really know which avera or which mitzvah weighs more. Only Hashem knows the importance and real weight of each mitzvah and avera. But, the next halacha, this is really what I felt like last week. I'm like, how could we discuss about the scale without discussing this halacha? And the Rambam brings us to a practical conclusion. So, okay, knowing about this whole scale, more mitzvahs, more averes, but he says the lesson, Lefichach, tzarich kol adam sheyira atzmai kol hashana kula, ki'ilu chatzio zakai v'chatzio chayav. V'chein kol ha'olam chatzio zakai v'chatzio chayav. Chata chet echad, hari echrias atzmai v'skol ha'olam kulei lekafs chayva, v'garam lai hashchasa. Asa mitzvah achas, hari echrias atzmai v'skol ha'olam kulei lekafs chus, v'garam lai v'lahem teshua v'hatzola. Shnamar v'tzadik yesod olam. Ze shetzadik v'hechrias kol olam l'schus v'hitziloi. Accordingly, throughout the entire year, a person should always look at himself as equally balanced between merit and sin, and the world as equally balanced between merit and sin. If he performs one sin, he tips the balance and that of the entire world to the side of guilt and bring destruction upon himself. On the other hand, if he performs one mitzvah, he tips his balance, and that of the entire world to the side of merit, and brings deliverance and salvation to himself and others. This is implied by a righteous man is the foundation of the world. So the Rambam is translating it, explaining not just the righteous person, but someone who acts righteously tipped the balance of the entire world to merit and saved it. So this is a very powerful thing, the power of one action, one good mitzvah, a lot of weight, yeah?
So work the other way. If one person is particularly evil or sinful, does it drag down good people?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it says.
It's everything that a person does is affecting the entire world.
Right.
Look at all those good Germans.
If he performs one sin, he tips the balance and that of the entire world to the
Yeah,
side of guilt
yeah,
and brings
yeah.
destruction upon himself.
It's interesting. It doesn't say, when it's talking about the negative, he says for himself. When it says about the positive, he speaks about
The entire
him
world
and the
is
entire
saved.
world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's kol ha'olam lizchut vehitzilo.
Hitzilo.
So that could be interpreted in different ways. The translations, it says saved it, but hitzilo also could mean saved him.
Mm-hmm.
So could be just the translation.
That's saved.
Did you translate this?
No.
Oh, okay.
The last thing it says in the sentence is a direct object is ha'olam. So hitzilo
Is
seems to...
Mhm.
Referring to the olam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
Mm-hmm.
it's also v'atzal shenamar v'tzadik yisod olam ze שהצדק הכריע את כל העולם לזכות והצילו. Yeah, I guess you're right. And like given the context, it is implying the world.
Yes. So
Assuming he speaks and writes clearly, as you say.
what?
Assuming he speaks and writes
Yeah.
as clearly as you say. That's the simple explanation.
Yes, so
But it's same with the Hebrew. For the negative, it says חתך את האחד הרי והכריע את עצמו ואת כל העולם כולו לכף חובה וגרם לו השחתה.
So who is the low when it says he
Right.
causes to it destruction? Is that referring
It could,
to
the last noun or subject in the sentence is a kol haolam.
So it's saying that it is affecting the world.
Yeah. חובה וגרם לו השחתה.
And then hishchata is reflexive, probably.
Hashchasa is destruction.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the hishchata, I don't think they show a dot and a hey, but if there was one, it would be reflexive.
Yeah. Either way.
Yes. So this is just making this what we're learning practical. The Rambam is saying, if a person knows this about the difference between a tzaddik and a beinoni, so we should always, the Rambam is saying this is how a person should view himself throughout the entire year. We were learning this in the context of Rosh Hashanah, that's when Hashem decides, but it's not only about Hashem's judgment, it's also the way we should look at our actions. Don't look at just one mitzvah that you do as just one little action, but this action could be tilting the scale for you and for the entire world. So that's how powerful that action is. And, there's always this thing, we're trying to bring Mashiach, but which mitzvah is going to be the mitzvah to bring Mashiach? And you never know, this mitzvah that you're doing could be the one that's going to be the...
Saves the whole world, brings the Mashiach.
Yeah. So a similar idea for this, it's like how it connects, it's interesting, but there's a Gemara in Eruvin where it says like this, Chash b'roishay, someone has a headache, someone has pain in his head, what should he do? The Gemara, take a Tylenol, right? The Gemara says, Yasoik b'Torah, you should study Torah. You ever knew this remedy? If you have a headache, study Torah. Is that going to help your head or is it going to hurt your head more?
Depends who you're learning with.
And it depends which part of Torah you study.
Torah, definitely,
right?
yes.
Shenemar ki liv yaschein heim l'reishecha. It says that Torah is like an ornament for your head, like maybe a crown. They use here a fancy word in English, maybe someone else had to translate this. One who feels pain in his head should engage in Torah study. It is stated, for they shall be a grateful wreath. What's wreath?
How like Christians put a wreath on their door in Christmas, like the wreath
more like
of...
the olive leaves that the Greek athletes wear.
Sure, but it's just like a circle of branches, or like a circle of something.
So
To wreath means to surround and envelop. But a wreath is, as you said,
Actually, the Hebrew is better. Liv yaschein.
liv yaschein. So
It's more. It's clearly a positive.
Yeah.
Chain.
it's a good thing for your head.
Graceful wreath,
Torah, a graceful wreath.
Right.
For livyas also has the idea of like accompanying, like it's connected to your head.
in Greek they would call it a laurel.
Okay. Very good.
Laurel. So it's a wreath of laurel leaves is what it is.
So
Let's not forget that line from Blazing Saddles, a laurel and hearty handshake.
Oh, very good.
Read Torah if you got a headache.
if you have Torah, so people ask the question, the obvious question. We find that people studying Torah and it doesn't help their headache,
Right.
right? So it's saying try it out.
Oh,
It's
it
saying,
doesn't say it'll make your head feel better.
in the context of the Gemara, it actually lists a bunch of things. It says if you have a problem with your throat, it also says study Torah. It says Torah is actually a cure for your body.
Does it literally say that?
Yeah.
Because if not, then it's just saying you should do these things.
You could check the Gemara, but it gives a list of a bunch of things, and it shows how Torah brings cure to different parts of the body. So the question is, we find that people study Torah and it didn't help their headache. So what does the Gemara mean? So the answer that's given is that the Torah, just like there's a person has different parts of his body, the Torah also has different parts, different sections. And different parts of the Torah are related to different parts of the body. Which means if you study the part of the Torah, which is the head of the Torah, then that would help your head. If you study a part which is connected to the throat, then that will help your throat. So the reason why it's not helping your headache is because you got the wrong part.
Okay, all right.
But how do you know which part of the Torah is related to your head?
You have to study Torah to know.
So the only way to do it is you have to start studying. You might get to that part.
And then when your headache feels better,
You're
then
like,
you know
that's the part.
that's the Torah part that's related to the head.
So how is this related to what we're talking about? Is because we say, we want to do another mitzvah, and maybe this mitzvah is going to tilt a scale, but how do you know which mitzvah it is going to be? So do every mitzvah, it might be that one. That's what we're saying. It's the same idea. So you never know which mitzvah could be the one that's going to tilt the scale and save the world and bring Mashiach. So
Putting on tefillin is a mitzvah, but maybe like helping someone escape from a burning building could be a higher mitzvah.
It can also be
possibly
related to your particular needs.
But because you never know, so therefore you should try to do every mitzvah that you can, because maybe this is the mitzvah that you need and the whole world needs, right?
Similar to, that's the part of the Torah.
Exactly.
that
Just like by the headache.
You needed for the headache.
Yeah, because you don't know
keep
which
studying
part, just
Torah.
keep on studying, because this might be the right part. Now the next piece, this Rambam actually answers a very big question. I happened to, my wife was playing a video, and it was talking about Torah and was connected to this Rambam. And I thought, wow, this is all connected. So this is a story from Brachos. It says, when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai fell ill, the next piece in Brachos, it says, the students entered to visit him. When he saw them, he began to cry. His students said to him, they gave different descriptions for how great Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was. Lamp of Yisrael, the right pillar, the mighty hammer, the man whose life's work is the foundation of the future of the Jewish people. For what reason are you crying? This Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is about to pass away, and he's crying. And they're saying, what are you crying? You know, you're a tzaddik, you're such a righteous person. The Gemara tells us in another place that he would never walk without talis and tefillin. He would always have talis and tefillin, and for 40 years he was studying Torah, another 40 years he was teaching Torah. He was a very, very holy person. So what is he crying about before he passes away? So he gives first he says a whole long thing that he's going in front of Hashem, the King of all kings. He says, moreover, but I have two paths before me, one of the Garden of Eden and one of Gehenna, and I do not know on which way they are leading me, and I will not cry. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, this great tzaddik, and he's saying before he's passing away, I don't know if I'm going to Gan Eden or to Gehenna. And the question is, how could he even think that he is going to Gehenna?
If he did so many good deeds, why is he even considering that?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not sure which path they're taking me. So the answer, there's a lot of different explanations, but one of the explanations is that there's what you do, and then there's deeper parts of the person, which means even if you do everything right, but it could be deep down, your feelings or your intellect is not fully there with Hashem. It could be you're doing all the mitzvot, you're doing the right things, but the question is your heart fully to Hashem? That's something that you can't really see. And if we think about it, we just learned this in the Rambam, like we said before, in his clear wording. He says that who decides which mitzvah is greater or not as great? Only Hashem knows. So you don't know the weight of a mitzvah. So it could be he was doing a lot of mitzvahs, but he's saying, I still don't know the weight of each mitzvah. It could be maybe one slight thing that I did, and compared to my level is considered like a big sin, or the opposite. So he says, just because I did so many mitzvahs, I don't know, because I still have to come in front of Hashem, which is the all-knowing.
This is a bit of a tangent, but when and where does the word Gehenom, when does it start?
Where did that word come from?
Yeah. And where is the first time we hear about Gehenom? Is it in the Tanakh?
I think.
I need a concordancia. Do we have one here?
We do.
Yeah.
I understand that the word Gehinom comes from the word Gai. Gai is like a valley. It's like going deep, like a pit, or something like that. But the first Gates Almavis, the shadow valley of death. But I don't know.
Lord is my shepherd.
Yeah, in Psalm 23, right? Yes, that's a good question. We have to check. I don't know if it's clearly in the Tanakh. I think it's actually Sheol. In Tehillim, a lot of times it says Sheol. That actually says Vayerdu Chaim Sheola. It says that about the sons of Korach, or the people that were with Korach. They descended into the pit.
Thank you.
Into the.
It's a gift from my daughter to the shul.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, nice. We have the Konkordatia. Okay, so it's very interesting how by studying the Rambam we could have an answer to this question about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Why was he wasn't sure which way he was going? Is because we don't really know the weight of each mitzvah.
That's logical.
What?
I think that would apply to anybody.
Yeah?
I still wonder why he was crying.
That-
And if he's going to Gehinnom, it's to repair any final defects in his soul before he ascends to Olam Haba. You would know that and rejoice that.
All right.
So that's true. That's true.
You know it's temporary.
An
for almost
opportunity to
everybody.
purge.
That's true. If you're looking at the future, the ultimate.
Sad that he'll miss his friends and his life.
but they asked him why he was crying, and this was one of the reasons that he was giving, because he wasn't sure which direction he was
He
going.
wants to skip to the head of the line.
What?
He wants to skip to the head of the line.
Yeah,
This is happening to me.
he wants to go straight to Gan Eden. So that was about the Rambam over here. It also reminds me of a story. I think they say it's about the Rambam. Maybe some people say it's about a different rabbi. You know the story about the bris. We just had a bris this Tuesday. The Rambam was a physician, and we know the Rambam had people that tried to cause problems. They were jealous of the Rambam, and one time the other person, the other physician, I guess that was there, he made up some story about the Rambam, and he told the king to kind of get rid of the Rambam. And the message was that when the Rambam came to the king, this was the setup that the sultan, whoever was in charge, he would send him off to the fiery furnace of the town. And the person that was there was told that the first person that comes to the furnace, they should dump him in. Yeah. Now, the Rambam, he gets a message from the sultan that morning that, the king wants you to go to the fiery furnace. So that the Rambam was also a mohel. He was able to do a bris. And someone came over to him and said that, we don't have anyone else. The mohel canceled on us or something. We really need you. But he's thinking, what should I do? From one hand, I have this special order from the sultan. I want to do that right away. But from the other hand, I have a bris. He decided to do the mitzvah of the bris. And by that time, the other person wanted to see what happened to the Rambam, like if he was gone already. But instead of putting the Rambam into the fire, they actually dumped the other guy because he was the one who came first. So we see here that one mitzvah could actually save your life, like we're talking about over here. One mitzvah could be what tilts the whole.
There's a similar case out of pre-Israel Palestine, where a bunch of Arab youths had captured a Jewish tzaddik, and they were going to murder him. And he asked if he could be allowed to make one last bracha. And he asked for a drink of water, and he makes the bracha b'rei Pri Hagafen. And during the time that he made that last bracha and Pri Hagafen and drank, the imam came by and saw what the kids were doing and made them let him go.
Oh wow, that's a special story. There's another story similar to that. There was, I think the Rebbe told someone to be very careful about netilas yadayim, always washing his hands. And one time there was a soldier that was together with this whole group, and there wasn't any water around. And he was thinking, I have to wash my hands. And he went away from where they were, and to go to another place to find water. And like just then, like a bomb fell or something, and he was saved because he went to search for water for netilas yadayim.
When was it?
So I don't remember exactly. I just remember
In the modern wars or
yeah, more modern.
Yeah, I just read there was one in the news group where somebody decided to turn to the east to say mincha, and he saw a terrorist pop out of a hole that no one was facing.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was just in the news.
So
Say if it's not in this book, and it's not in the Torah.
I don't think it's clearly in the Torah, the word Gehenna. I think it came later. So last week we spoke about the two opinions about Kovish and Nosei, whether Hashem pushes down the sin or lifts it up. And we brought a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov was explaining the difference between Kovish and Nosei. Right, so it's very interesting. This morning I was looking for some more information about this, and I found from the Alter Rebbe the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov was very cryptic. It was written very short, what we spoke about before, Kovish and Nosei. But the Alter Rebbe expounds on this, and he really explains it really nicely. So I found in the beginning we spoke about the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe. They're both very clear, very explained very clearly. So I thought if we already studied the Baal Shem Tov on this, study it also from what the Alter Rebbe spoke about Kovish and Nosei. Yeah.
Nom means wailing.
Wailing, like
Wailing of children.
but
Cries of children.
and gay is from guy, like a valley, of, yeah.
Vale of tears, huh?
So on the third page,
Jewish, yeah, I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. So on the third page over here we have
Hades is Greek.
What?
Hades is Greek, right?
Hades?
Hades, hell.
Yes, that's Greek.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I said babies.
Yeah, we're talking about the non hell,
Yeah, he's
so to speak.
he was just making the
Right.
etymological
I thought it was a
word.
mishearing you talking
Mhm.
about. I'm sorry. please.
Yeah, so we were talking about the different attributes of Hashem. There's the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, the 13 attributes of mercy. We say Hashem, Kel Racham Chanan. So where do those come from? Those are from after the Chet Egel, the golden calf. So we say Hashem, Kel Racham, Moshe. Hashem showed him these 13 attributes, and that was going to cause forgiveness for the golden calf. Now there's another pasuk in Micha. And this pasuk is related to the Yud Gimel Midas. Each word in this pasuk is connected to another one of the 13 attributes, Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim. And that's actually what our Gemara mentions. So if you look on the top over here, Mi Kel Kamecha, who is a God like you, Naisei Avon, Va'over al Pesha. We say Hashem who lifts the sin, va'aver al pesha, and passes over the transgression, l'she'eres nachalasoi, lo'yechazik lo'ad apa. Hashem does not hold his anger forever, ki chafetz chesed hu. So last week we discussed what are the two opinions. We said that if Hashem tips the scale, either he could lift the sins or push down the sins. What is the difference? So we explained that.
Merits or push down the sins.
So there's two opinions: either lift the merits or lift. The pasuk says noisei avain, that Hashem lifts the sin, and the other opinion was koivesh, pushes down. But what does Hashem push down? So there's two opinions. One says he pushes down the merits to make them stronger, or that Hashem pushes down the sins. Actually, Hashem pushes them down and throws them like tashlich. Hashem throws them deep down, like far away. So last time we explained from the Baal Shem Tov that in every avera, in every sin, there's two parts. There's the action, and then there's the motivation that brings you to do this, to do that sin. There's the drive. Let's say a person has a certain desire, and then there's the way it expresses in a certain action. So he says the avera itself, the wrong deed, the wrong action, that cannot be transformed. That you have to get rid of. But what you could lift up is the desire, because desire is not a bad thing. You could have a desire for a good thing. The same desire that you have to do something negative could be transformed to loving of Hashem. We know it says V'havtas Hashem Elokecha, you should love your Hashem with your neshama, and even with your Yetzer Hara. Oh, hello. So even that could be transformed. So if we look closely at the words, Naisei Avain va'aver al pesha. So there's Avain and pesha. These are the two words in the pasuk for sin. Avain and pesha. What would be the difference between those two words? We're talking about words over here, Gehenna and
It's in the
right.
It's in the Tachecha.
So avain, I think, comes from the word of ivut, which means something which is crooked. Derech reshaim ya'avet. It says the ways of the wicked Hashem makes crooked. It's funny, we say that in davening, we say the ways of the wicked, Ye'aves, Hashem will make crooked. So what's the point of that? When you make something crooked again, what happens?
It straightens it up.
It straightens it up.
Oh,
So that's a interesting translation. So avoin is something which is crooked. But pesha is worse. Pesha is a transgression.
Maybe that's what we're really praying for, though.
Which one?
To make the crooked straight through more crookedness.
Through more crooked. Exactly. That's one meaning of Ya'aveh.
It's so evil, he came out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So
Pesha is, it's like a crime.
yeah. So then you have the two words that Hashem does. Noisei avain va'oiver al pesha. When it says avain, what does Hashem do? Noisei, he lifts it up. When it comes to pesha, to transgression, it says oiver, he passes over. So why is this word linked with that? Why is avon associated with nosei, that Hashem lifts up the crooked? And for the pesha, it's oiver, he passes over. Passes on, even. So if we think about what the Baal Shem Tov taught us last week, it fits beautifully in the words. And this is really what the Alter Rebbe adds to the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. He says, we see it in the Pasuk. The feeling, the desire is crooked, which means the desire is not a bad thing. Desire could be tuned. You could use it for the right thing. You just have to lift it up. But the pesha, the actual avera, that you have to be oiver al. You have to step on it. You have to push it down. When you say oiver al something, that you're like going over something, you're really pushing it down. So when it comes to the avon, to the feeling, the incorrect desire, no say, you could lift that up. How do you lift it up? You just use the desire for something good. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to pesha, when it comes to the actual sin, oiveral, you have to really step on it, press it down to make sure that it doesn't come back up. So that's really that's how we explain. These two opinions are not really arguing. It says they're shneim emes, they're both true. Just one is talking about the desire, the motivation, and one is talking about the action.
I guess the one concern that I have with something like this is that you're opening up the door for people to say, no, that wasn't pesha, that was just, avon, like, it's like if you are creating more opportunities to take something rasha and to just kind of twist it a little bit to say, actually, no, it's not, my intentions were good, my motivations were good, and I mean, I guess what it's really saying here is that Hashem knows, that like, but I think for me it's like, how does one know what is avon and what is pesha?
So he makes a clear differentiation. One is the action, and one is the intention, the motivation. That's how you would know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there is still a question raised about, as I say, about the certain roads being paved with good intentions. You can have good intentions and do horrible things with good intentions. So lifting up good intentions, one hopes means directing your good intentions to good ends.
So we're talking about lifting up bad intentions, but we're saying that intentions are not inherently bad, which means the action, you can't really change the action. Once you you did something, that's a pesha, but the feeling that you have is not specifically to that action, which means even if you have a desire to do a certain thing, if you could get what you're feeling, what your desire is for through doing something else, you might accept it. Okay. That's what we're saying.
The murderer becomes a shofet.
What?
The murderer's intent becomes a shofet.
Yeah, exactly. That's okay. So this was finishing off from last week, and
let's talk about chesed.
Let's talk about chesed. So let's get back to the Ein Yaakov. That was yeah, sure. Thanks. Everyone has Kiddush here? Okay. So this is page 73. It's 73 Rosh Hashanah, where it says Amar Rava. I'll read it. Yeah, I'll read it first in Hebrew because it's just a very, very powerful statement from Rava. Then we'll translate it. Amar Rava, Kol ha'ma'avir al midasav, ma'avirin lai al kol psha'av. On the bottom, the Gemara teaches another lesson derived from one of the previously cited verses. Rava said, one who passes by his measures, and that's midasav, will merit that the divine attribute of justice will pass by his sins. What does that mean? So they explain. What does it mean his measures? What does it mean passing by? Again, over al, right? So let's continue on 74 to explain. One who is wronged by his fellow is entitled to compensation, measure for measure, mida keneged mida. You always know, measure for measure. If the wronged person forgives the one who wronged him, he can be said to have passed by his measure of compensation without having demanded it. So if someone did something wrong to you, you say, oh, this person should get punished for doing such and such. But then you could be, no, ma'avir al midasav, you pass over it. You say, I'm going to overlook this thing. This person did something wrong to me. I don't want him to get punished for what he did, like for my end. Such a person will merit to have the divine attribute of justice pass by his sins without demanding compensation for them. It's a very powerful thing how the way a person looks at other people, this causes the way Hashem should look at the person. So if he's ready to overlook something wrong that someone did to him, Hashem will overlook also this person in his judgment. This is not a simple thing to do. This is a very, very hard thing to do. Now, in the notes over here on the bottom, they have a few suggestions of how to make this easier, of how could we be ma'avir al midosav, to pass over our judgment, and not be so judging of other people and what they did to us. So, on page 75, where it says, you see where all the numbers are, where it starts, Rebbe Leo Eliezer Dessler. Rabbi Dessler explains that a person acquires the mindset of overlooking wrongs done to him by putting himself in the other person's position and viewing things from the other person's perspective. He can thus consider why the other fellow is motivated to act the way he did and how he himself might have done the same in similar circumstances. It's this idea of like, dan l'chaf zchut, don't judge someone favorably, because, what if, put yourself in their shoes. Rav Dessler offers 10 practical pieces of advice for achieving this mindset, seeing things from the other person's perspective. 1. Do not allow your interactions with others to be coldly intellectual and impersonal. Let them be guided by the other person's mood and temperament. To have a closer relationship, not just a cold one. 2. The other person may feel that he is superior to you in certain respects. Do not begrudge him. Respect for his talent and ability. He might even be correct. Your recognition of his strengths will make him more kindly disposed toward you. So that's appreciating someone else's strengths and capabilities. 3. Look for common ground where both of you agree. So instead of looking for the parts which you disagree, look for the parts that you agree. 4. Do not attempt to force the other person to submit to your will, but rather have him want to do it because it will give him satisfaction. So if you are trying to convince someone, try to make him agree with you, kind of where he can gain from it. 5. Do not engage in heated debates with your friend. It would only create a rift and weaken your friendship. 6. These are all not simple things to do. 6. Do not speak much about yourself to your friend. Speak to him about him, his strengths, and his accomplishments. A lot of times in conversation, you think, are you talking about what you want to say, or are you talking about what the other person wants to hear, or about the other person? 7. Pay attention to what others say. Try to remember their names and similar personal details. 8. Be diplomatic. Never openly criticize your friend, for this will only increase his stubbornness. This number 8, I guess it's a little bit tricky, because sometimes we say that you should tell someone, but I guess you should be careful how to do it. 9, if you are wrong, admit it. 10, finally, be mindful of the famous physician's adage, that is, it is more important to understand the nature of the patient than the nature of the illness. For often the ailment is caused by the mood and disposition of the patient, not the illness itself. Similarly, interpersonal relationships can be healed by taking a sincere interest in another's welfare and making a real effort to understand him. So these are 10 suggestions of how to improve our relationships and help us being ma'avir al midosav. By practicing these suggestions, it will become much easier for one to be ma'avir al midosav, and therefore ensuring that his own sins will be overlooked in turn. Okay, so a lot.
Can teach this to a whole generation of therapists.
Yeah. This is,
a way to increase empathy.
Yeah, the general idea over here is thinking more about the other person and less about the person himself.
Less about the illness or the bad deed itself. Thinking more about the person.
Yeah. And also when talking with someone else, to think more about the person you're talking with
than yourself.
Yeah. So now the Gemara is going to tell us a story of which is related to this Ma'avir al Midaisov. Page 75. Before that, so how do we know this actually? How do we know that if a person will overlook his judgment, then Hashem will overlook his, as it says in the verse quoted above, who is a God like you, who pardons transgressions and overlooks sins? Again, va'over al pesha, this is the same verse. For the remnant of his heritage. Rava interprets the word va'over, which we have translated and as overlooks, and as and passes by. Thus, for whom does Hashem pardon transgression? For one who passes by, that is, forgives sins committed against himself. So in the pasuk we says noisei avain, Hashem forgives the sin, va'over al pesha, and he overlooks the transgression. The Gemara is translating it that there's two parts. One is saying what Hashem does, and what is saying what we do. When will Hashem be noisei avain? When will Hashem forgive our sin? If we are over al pesha, if we pass over when things are done wrong to us. The Gemara tells of an incident in which this exposition was cited. You see how va'over al pesha, instead of referring to what Hashem does, it's a result of what we do. So this is a very interesting story. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yeshua, became ill. And looks like it was like deathly ill. Rav Papa went to see him and found him on the brink of death. He said to the people there, supply him with provisions for his journey. It's a very interesting metaphor that he used. That is, prepare his shrouds. Like it looks like it was over. And Rashi says, if you look at footnote 10, shrouds are the only provisions necessary for a dead man. But what happened in the end was Rav Huna recovered. So Rav Papa comes to visit him, and he's already getting ready his tachrichim, his shrouds, and meanwhile he gets better. So Rav Papa, he's like, in the end, Rav Papa, who had discussed Rav Huna's funeral preparations, was embarrassed to see him. He didn't want to. In order to reassure Rav Papa, Rav Huna said to him, indeed, it is true that I have been sentenced to death by the heavenly tribunal. But I prayed for mercy, and the Holy One, blessed is He, said to the heavenly tribunal, since he does not stand on his rights, that is, he does not insist that those who wronged him be punished, do not be exacting with him. So this story is exactly what we were talking about, Ma'avir al Midaisa, when a person passes over and he doesn't demand that the other person should be punished for his actions, this actually brought him back to life.
At a deeper level, he's telling Rav Huna not to be embarrassed, because to be embarrassed means to imply that you've done something wrong to that other person, and he's saying, no, I prayed that I overlook transgressions and God saved me. And so he's saying, obviously I have to overlook yours.
Says
Oh, God could rescind
he's saying,
his,
I'm not upset at you, right? He's, I'm not going to hold a grudge. Exactly.
I can't hold a grudge because he already sentenced me to death once. So I'm not going to push my luck.
Yeah. So that's very good. So in the story itself, you see it in a double way.
Yeah.
Like we just said before, that who is a God like you who pardons transgression and overlooks sins for the remnant of his heritage? For whom does Hashem pardon transgression? For one who passes by, that is, forgives sins committed against himself. So here we had a story that there was actually a judgment on Rav Huna, and because he was able to overlook things that were done wrong to him, Hashem brought him back to life. So this is all from this pasuk in Micha that says Hashem is over al pesha, but then there's two words at the end.
Where is the pasuk from?
Micha.
From Micha.
Micha. So it says l'she'eris nachalasai, to the remnant of his heritage. So what is the meaning of that? Rav Acha bar Rav Chanina said, there's a fat tail here, but with a thorn in it. What does this mean? Let's look at the bottom 13. The fat tail is choice part of the animal, but thorns often get caught into it. Thus, not all people can benefit from the fat tail, only those who are willing to remove the thorns. So too, not everybody will be able to benefit from Hashem's promise to forgive the remnant of his heritage. Only those who are willing to humble themselves, as the Gemara will say. So when we say to overlook our judgments and don't judge too harshly, it's not so simple. It's a fat tail, like it's something very good that Hashem is going to forgive, but you have to take out the thorns. And how does he explain it? Hashem's promise to forgive the Jewish people applies only for the remnant of his heritage, but not for all of his heritage. It says only l'she'eris, only for the remnant. What does that mean? It applies only for someone who conducts himself like a remnant. The words of the Gemara, shemesim atzmai kishirayim. Shirayim is the leftovers.
Yeah.
So that is to a person who humbles himself. What does this mean? So let's look at 14, the footnote. The plain meaning of l'she'eris nachlasi, the remnant of his heritage, refers to the remaining Jews at the time of Mashiach's arrival, whoever is left. We say a lot of times she'eris Yisrael, the left of the Gemara, however, expounds she'eris in the sense of leftovers. Just as people do not consider leftover scraps of food significant, so too this person considers himself unimportant and does not act haughtily. So how does this relate to what we were talking about before? Above, the Gemara derived from the first part of the verse that Hashem overlooks the sin of one who is silent when injustice is done to him. Rabbi Acha bar Chanina now derives from the latter part of the verse that this promise is conditional. It's not only if the person's lack of response is due to his humility does he deserve to have his sins overlooked. But if he is silent due to his haughtiness because he considers the person who wronged him as of no account, he receives no benefit for not responding. So there's two ways that a person could overlook when someone else did something wrong to him. One way is, I don't care what you did. I'm so much greater than you. I don't even care what you say. So that is not called over al pesha. That's not called overlooking the judgment, because the person is such a balgaiva, he's so haughty with such a big ego that he doesn't even look at the other person. But we're coming from the other side, from a place of humility, because the person feels so humble. Even if someone actually offended him or did something wrong, you're able to overlook it. So that's what the Gemara said over here, that it's a tail, it's a fat tail. There's something really positive over here, that Hashem will forgive you if you forgive others, but it's only if it comes from a place of humility, not from a place of arrogance. So that's the catch. It's like a tail with the thorns. You have to make sure that it's coming from a good place, that it's coming from a source of humility. So that's the end of the pasuk, l'she'eris nachalasai.
So this is silly. I saw a video yesterday. Two guys walking down the street and the one bumps into the other. And the first guy turns around and goes, "Hey man, you got a problem?" The guy says, "Yeah, I got a problem. My car won't start." And the guy says, "Let me look at it." And then they fix his car, and
then they fall in love.
more or less. Actually, the first guy says, "Now you don't have a problem." He says, "Well, I have a problem." He says, "What's the problem?" I said, "My friend's ditched me." He says, "Well, we'll go out." So they hang out together. Not a date, but they hang out. So it was just kind of funny, the whole idea. The whole idea of the guy was saying, "You got a problem," and it turning into, "No, I just need some help." Interesting, semi-parallel thing.
And talking about sheer.
Your brain works so funny.
Ask anyone.
You noticed it.
It's,
Yeah.
There's a certain humility in not taking offense, and there's a certain humility in reaching out and helping when reaching out instead of lashing out. So.
And I think it's also like it's interesting take on humility of not just passing over the transgressions of other humans, but also passing over some of the transgressions that Hashem sometimes gives us. And understanding, like my family is really struggling right now, and I could be angry at Hashem, or I could pass over that and understand it as just another part of my life. And I guess what I'm hearing from this Gemara is with that same sort of chesed of, it's like I'm not going to hold this against Hashem for bringing bad things into my life. There's a chance that Hashem will also overlook some of my sins because of that attitude. Is that
I get
you.
The
Yeah.
people who live their whole lives with a cloud over their head.
Absolutely.
They can't see the happiness.
Absolutely.
And there are people the other way around too. No matter
Right.
how tough life is, they're in a state of joy.
Right.
So that actually ties in the first few words of the pasuk. We were focusing more on Noisei Avain va'over al Pesha, but
And that pasuk also comes from Micha? No.
it's all from the same
Okay,
pasuk.
got
So
it.
it starts off Mi kel kamocha, who is a god like you, and the word is kel,
Okay.
and we know that kel is a name attributed with chesed. We say chesed kel kol hayom, the kindness. Usually Elokim is gevura, and kel is chesed. So the pasuk is actually saying that the way that we're able to receive this kel, this kindness of Hashem, who is a God like you, in the way how kind Hashem is through being over al pesha, Naisi Oven over al pesha. That allows Hashem's kindness to come to us. The she'eris nachalasai. So, in the words we didn't see it inside from the Alter Rebbe was that it's like you have a curtain which might get in the way. That's what an avera is. An avera is a curtain, something which is blocking between. It's also a klipa, like a shelf, but
it's more than that. It's a veil.
It's obscuring Hashem's light and Hashem's kindness to reach the person. When a person is over al pesha, when a person he's able to pass over the sin, that's when Hashem's kindness is able to come to him directly, and there's nothing blocking, nothing that gets in the way. So that's so we should all feel the chesed of Hashem. The good things.
We never got to all 13 though. What the heck?
So that's gonna be. We still have more.
I'm just checking.
13 weeks is. What is this very large? Oh, the Lukotei Torah, the Rosh Hashanah.
So.
Stuff here, we're gonna go over that later.
So I said that outside. The difference between Avon and Pesha, that Avon is the feeling, the crookedness that could be lifted, and Pesha that has to be stepped on. That was in the Lakota Torah. I said that outside.
She brought the whole verse.
Yeah. The whole explanation.
Very cool.
All right.
So which aspect of chesed was this?
What do you mean, which aspect?
I'm just kind of like curious, like how the 13 aspects are distinguished.
So that's.
Is that going to come next time?
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Exactly.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Next part will be the Yud Gimel Midot HaRachamim.
Oh, where they little cliffhangers, so you have to go back there.
Yeah. You can't get all the 13 at once, but Well,
You
I
never
think
get it all.
we got 2 or 3 of them. We have kel, this chesed.
Kel is
Then we have nosei avon va'over al pesha.
those are 2 different ones.
Yeah.
No say Very nice.
All right. One. Yasher koach.
Thank you.
Oh,
Everybody.
Laila tov.